Okay, I can see 16 participants. All right, so can anybody of you confirm that you can hear me before we continue with the session? You can make use of the chat and okay, can anybody confirm that you can hear me? Right. Okay, thank you, Aminata. Thank you, Anna. Okay, so let's proceed. So you should be able to hear me and also to see my screen. Thank you, Nelson. And so let's do the presentation, and we will also connect later on to the training environment to also show how all the things we are gonna see in the presentation are represented in the system. Okay, so today's session we wanna talk about how, as a travel administrator for UNVs and other non-staff, you can raise travel requests on behalf of UN volunteers, okay, and other non-staff. By other non-staff, we are including consultants, contractors, meeting participants, and other non-staff like fellows, okay? All right. So at any point in time, just ask any question you might have using the chat, or if you have a microphone, you can also stop me at any moment for questions, all right? Okay, so as part of this implementation, we went live the 15th of June. We went live with the implementation of the travel module for other traveler categories. So before the 15th of June, the only categories that were using the travel module in Umoja were the international staff. Okay, so starting from 15th June, we are able in Umoja to raise travel requests for other categories like national staff, uniformed personnel. Okay, so last week we had sessions for travel administrators, for uniformed personnel, and today we want to focus on the travel administrators for UNVs and other non-staff. So for UNVs, and I mean in here in this slide, we want to represent what travel types are available for each type of traveler. So in columns we have the different travelers like a UNV, consultants, and other non-staff. And in rows we have the different travel categories, like for example official travel, and the different travel types, like for example within mission and official business. So basically, official travel is available for any kind of traveler. So UNVs, consultants, and other non-staff, you as a travel administrator, you can raise official travel requests on behalf of any of those travelers. So all of them can travel on official travel category. But then specifically for UNVs are also entitled for R&R travel. That's why you can see here that for UNVs, as a travel administrator, you can raise R&R travel. And for consultants, you have one specific HR travel type, that is the appointment. So as a travel administrator, you can raise appointment travel type to onboard an international consultant. So consultants are entitled for appointment HR travel. And as a travel administrator non-staff, you should be able to raise a appointment non-staff travel request for consultants. Okay. So this is basically the mapping of travel types by traveler. okay, and only considering the UNVs and non-staff. We don't include here the uniform personnel category or national staff. So, which are the travel administrator roles that we have in Umoja? We have one specific role, okay, and in Umoja everything is all the roles are codified with a code, okay. So the TB04 role is the role, the travel administrator that can raise travel requests on behalf of UNVs. Okay. Let me ask you a question, okay, and then you can answer to me. You can use the checkbox, right? You can use the green check mark and the no and the red cross to answer yes or no. So let me ask you a question regarding UNV. Do UNVs have access to the portal to raise their own travel requests? So as per this implementation, UNVs are able to travel using Umoja, but do UNVs have access to the portal to raise their own travel request using self-service? Okay, what do you think? We have answers from Aminata, Anna. You can make use of the chat or also of the yes button or the no button. Okay. I want to see your responses. So far, I only got 3 responses. So UNVs have access to the portal to raise their own travel requests. Yes or no? Okay. No. Okay. So basically, you are saying that no, and you are completely correct. So UNVs with this implementation, they haven't been granted with access to the portal, and that means that you, as a travel administrator, you will have to raise all the different travel requests on behalf of the UNVs. Then we have this role, this travel administrator role for uniform personnel, and this is the TB05. Okay. So this TB05 role, it's the one that can raise travel requests on behalf of uniform personnel, like police officers, military officers, and today's session is not dedicated for this the travel request for uniform personnel, but individual uniform personnel have been granted access to the portal, and they can raise their within mission travel requests. So uniform personnel, the ones that are considered IUPs, individual uniform personnel, they can access the portal and raise within mission travel requests by themselves using the employee self-service. Okay, and this is TB05. Then we have TB06, that is the travel administrator role for non-staff. And in the non-staff category, we include consultants, we include contractors, we include also meeting participants and fellows. And the same thing as for UNVs, non-staff, none of them have access to the portal, and everything will have to be done on their behalf. So today's session is dedicated for the travel administrator UNV and travel administrator non-staff. Besides these 3 travel administrator roles, we also have the TB02, the travel administrator role, and this one is responsible for raising travel requests on behalf of international staff and national staff. Right? You know that international staff, they have access to employee self-service to raise their own travel requests. What about national staff? Have they been granted access to the portal? Yes or no? So national staff have been included in this implementation. Have national staff been granted with access to the portal to raise their own travel requests? All right. Okay. So far, only 2 answers. Are you awake? I know it's tough. Okay, it's not the best time. I want to keep you awake a little bit. Okay, otherwise it's gonna be a little bit boring. All right. So 3 answers so far. What about the other 25 people we have here connected? What do you think? Do you think that national staff have been granted with access to the portal? All right. Okay, we had some answers more. Okay. All right. So basically, you're all correct. So the answer is yes. Right. The national staff are able and they are supposed to raise all the travel requests by themselves using the portal. Okay. So only for UMBs and non-staff and also uniform personnel, the travel administrator role is required to raise travel requests on behalf of these travel categories. If you want to have more information on the different roles available, here I'm including the link to the role guide. So this is a PDF that is available in ISIC, and it has all the different roles in Umoja, not only the travel-related ones, but also all the other ones, like supply chain roles, logistics roles. So if you want to know which are the roles available, you can go to this link. So I'll share the presentation later on after this session. And by clicking on that link, you will get to the, let me show it to you. So you will reach, this PDF, okay, these Umoja role guides. And in here, you have all the different roles. So maybe most of you already know this document, but it's quite useful when you want to see which are the different roles related to a particular process. In here, you can search for the different roles. So for example, if I search for the TB0 something role, right, the TB, okay, let me search for it. All right, it should be down. So in the TB05 section, so in here we have, well, let me go down again. So in the TB part, the ones that are related to travel, we can see TB01, TB02, 03, 04, and all the different roles related to travel. We can see that the description for travel administrator non-staff, and if you click in any of them, you will get more information on that role. So this is in particular is for TB06, and as we were saying, this role will be responsible for raising travel requests for consultants, individual contractors, meeting participants, fellows, judges, and other employee subgroups. So by using that link, you are able to understand the different roles in Umoja, not only for travel, but for any other module. Okay, so it might be useful for you. Okay. So let's move ahead. And here, what I want to emphasize is that from now on, that we are using Umoja to travel different categories of personnel, like not only staff, but also uniform personnel and other non-staff. The index number and the HR mini master, it's always a must. So even if you, as a travel administrator, you are not responsible for creating index numbers, or even if you are not responsible for executing the personnel actions to complete the HR profile of the travelers, without that, without the index number and without the HR mini master, you will not be able to travel the person. So that's something you need to have in mind, because you might get an error when you're trying to process a travel request, and this error might be related with an incomplete HR profile for the traveler. Okay, so keep in mind that you always require an index number and an HR profile complete, no matter if you are trying to travel a UN volunteer or a consultant. Okay. All right. So as part of this implementation, all consultants have been migrated into the index number and HR profile, meaning that if your mission already had some consultants active, meaning that you as a mission, you were paying that consultant, they already had a business partner in Umoja, and that means that they were already an active business partner. So all these active business partner, they have been automatically given an index number and an HR mini master. So if as a travel administrator for non-staff, you are trying to travel a consultant that was already active, these consultants should already have an index number and an HR mini master, and you should be able to travel them without problem. Okay. What about new consultants? So new consultants, as part of their onboarding, they will receive their index number and the HR mini master. So the HR partner in your mission should create the index number and the HR mini master for them. The other non-staff, like UMBs, contractors, and so on, is the responsibility of your HR section to complete their HR profiles. So if you need to travel a UMB or a contractor, and you are getting an error message saying that the HR profile is not complete, you should always contact your HR section, who will help you, and they can run the personal action to complete their profile, so that you can travel them. Okay, but as a travel administrator, you are not responsible for that, but you will need, I mean, at least you have to understand that without an HR mini master and an index number, you will not be able to travel the people. Okay. All right. And this thing about the index number and the HR mini master applies to all travelers. So even for uniform personnel, contingent members, so any travel request we need to raise for any particular person, that person should always have an index number and an HR mini master. All right, so let's move ahead before we go to the system. So some key fields I want to emphasize on the travel request document. So in the travel request document, you as a travel administrator, you will have to indicate different key fields, but I want to pay special attention to the following: to the travel type. So travel type, it's very important, and you as a travel administrator, you need to spend a couple of minutes to think about the kind of travel you are raising for that person. Meaning, if you are traveling a UMB, you need to understand if that trip is within mission area, if it's for training, if it's for outside mission area, official business, and that will be reflected in the travel type you will select. And this travel type is important because it has an impact on the type of budget that is committed, and also the GL account that will be posted for the expenses. So the travel type is the link between the travel module and the funds management and FM and FI module. Okay. Do you have any questions?
See, he's speaking. But we have any collect this one, it will come in.
All right. So make sure you mute your microphone, or if you have questions, you can also make use of the chat. Okay. I just muted the person because I hear. I mean, I could notice that it was a mistake, the microphone. Okay. So remember to pay attention to the travel type. Then, what else do you have to pay special attention to? To the cost assignment, meaning the cost center and the fund. So normally, as a travel administrator, you should always check and indicate to which cost center or which cost center should be charged for that particular trip. It will be maybe that trip you are traveling a UNV for a specific project, and there will be a specific cost center that will be charged for that trip, or the same thing for a consultant. So you as a travel administrator, one thing you need to know when you are raising a travel request is the fund and cost center that you should be indicating as a cost assignment, and that will be the cost center that will be charged for all the expenses. Like, for example, there could be ticket expenses, entitlement for DSA, even the terminal expenses. So in the cost assignment, you need to indicate the proper cost center that will be charged for those expenses. And this cost assignment is the one that will derive the certifying officers, right, the TSAs, that will have to review and certify that particular trip. So TSAs, certifying officers, are mapped in the system based on the cost assignment you will select. So there might be specific certifying officers for one cost centers, and if you change the cost center, the list of certifying officers might be different. A similar thing applies to the travel processing office. So when you are raising a travel request, have a look at the travel processing office that has been defaulted by the system, and the travel processing office will be the travel processing office you need to select is the one that should be responsible for purchasing the tickets for that particular travel. And based on that, based on your selection for the office, the list of TPOs, the list of travel processing officers will change. So if you select, for example, your mission TPO office, then your TPOs in the mission will receive the trip request in the work centers, and they will be able to purchase the tickets. So pay special attention to these three fields when you are raising a travel request. Okay. So any questions so far? Nothing. Okay. So let's continue and talk a little bit about the steps and roles involved in the official travel process, and then we will discuss about the R&R and HR travel. So the official travel process, which are the steps and roles involved? As we were saying before, everything is initiated in HR, and for any traveler, we always need an index number and an HR mini-master. So once we have this HR part completed, you as a travel administrator, you can initiate the travel request process. And this process is the same for UNVs and for other non-staff like consultants or contractors. If you need to travel any of these type of travelers, you will initiate, as a travel administrator, you will initiate and create and submit the official travel request. You can do it as a travel administrator because we said that UNVs and non-staff, they cannot do it by themselves in the portal. Travel request will be then sent for approval to the TSAs. Right, so all your travel request, all your official travel requests you submit on behalf of the UNVs or non-staff will go for certification by the TSA. And the list of TSA, as we said, will be derived based on the cost center you choose, right? On the cost center you choose when you are raising your travel request. TSA will certify the travel request, and once the TSA certifies the travel request, it will go to the TPOs for approval. TPO meaning the travel processing officers, the ones that are responsible for purchasing the tickets. Once the travel request is fully approved, the finance can pay the vendor in case there is a ticket involved, so they will receive the invoices from the vendors, and they will be able to pay the vendor, and you as a travel administrator, you will be able to raise the related expense report. So remember that you are responsible not only for the travel request part, but also for the expense report part. Okay? If you submit expense report with no changes compared to what you submitted in the travel request, the expense report will be automatically approved. This is what we call the express expense report. Okay. If you do changes and you include additional expenses or you change the dates, that expense report will have to be reviewed again by the travel transshipment approver, the certifying officer, and in a second review by the TCP, the travel claims processor, that is normally a role in finance responsible for reviewing the different expenses and making sure that the traveler is entitled for those expenses. All right. So this is the workflow for the official travel process. So let me show you that part in the system. So I'm gonna log in the portal to show to you how that looks like in the system. So I'm gonna connect to the portal. You will normally go to production, right? But I'm gonna use training environment, and I'll try to raise an official travel request so that you can see what we just discussed, how that is represented in the system. So I'm trying to connect into the portal. Meanwhile, do you have any comment, question? How many of you are new travel administrators? All right, so we have some new travel administrators. So you're gonna be a little bit new into the system. So what I'm gonna show to you is the portal, so that it's not the first time you'll see it. Okay, so I'm gonna use the portal. Okay. All right. Okay. So now I'm trying to log in as a travel administrator. And this is something similar to what you will see when you log in with your own credentials in production. And you can see here that you will have specific tab for travel administrators, right? So this tab, the travel administrator tab, is the one you should be using to initiate travel requests on behalf of, depending on your role, of your UNVs or your non-staff colleagues. And then within the travel administration tab, then you have the travel administration link and you can use that one to reach the work center. Okay, and then the other one, the employee self-service. So in case you are a national staff, you will also have that one to raise travel requests for yourself. Okay, or if you are an international staff, you will also have that employee self-service to raise travel requests for yourself. But for the travel administrator role, you need to go to the travel administration tab. Okay, so let me click on there. And here you have some reporting links, the ones appearing in the reporting section. And if you want to initiate a travel request for a person, you should be clicking on Create and Process Travel on Behalf, the one in the travel administration section. So here, when you click on Create and Process Travel on Behalf, you will reach the this screen. Okay, and in this screen, you have the list of people for. So this in my screen, I can see two different travelers, right? It's Karen and Marisa. So these two are the ones, in my case, are the ones for which I have already raised a travel request in the past. So this is what in the system is called the employee list, right? The list of employees or the list of people for which I have already raised a travel request. You can see the last name, first name, and even the personnel assignment. So the personnel assignment, basically, this 99999 is basically the position, but what is important here is that the second number is the index number. So this second number appearing here are the index number for these two people. So from here, I could initiate a travel request for any of these two persons, or if I want to raise a travel request for a different person, I can click on Add Employee. And if I add, by clicking on Add Employee, I can just type the index number, the personnel number here, or I can even click on the white square and use the search button. So with this search, I am able to search by name. So I could be searching for a particular name, first name and last name. Okay, so you can, if you don't know the index number for a particular person, you can use the search. You can search by last name and first name, and you can click on search to search for your particular traveler. All right. And then when you click on OK, the third traveler will appear here. So in this screen, you can have as many travelers as you want. And if you have several, you can use the filter button here. So you can use the filter. Okay, let's say that we could have 10 different travelers or 100, and we could use the filter to filter by, for example, by name. Right? We could filter by name here. Sorry, by name. And we can use the filter to reduce the amount of people that we can see in our employee list. All right. So once I have here the traveler I want to raise a travel request for, I can select the line, and by selecting the line, all the details for that particular person will appear at the bottom. So you can see that when I selected the person, so in this case I want to travel Karen Peters. So when I clicked on here, the different details for that particular person appeared at the bottom. And here I can see all the different trips. So in total, there are already 31 travel request for that person, 10 corresponding to official travel, 0 HR, 20 entitlement travel that normally are going to be R&R, 9 that corresponds to lump sum request, 0 shipment request, 11 expense reports with a TR, and 1 expense report standalone. So you can filter by the different type of documents by clicking on the tab. And in each tab, you will see the details for each trip. So in here, you have one line for each trip. So in this one, the first one belongs to trip 299466. You have the dates, right? Start date, end date, the type of travel. In the first case, it's official business travel, the destination, the travel purpose, and then security and medical clearance. But what is extremely important are these two columns, workflow status and recommended actions. So by reading these two columns, we should be able to understand what's the status of that particular trip. So for official travel, the workflow status is TO approved, travel officer, TPO officer approved. And the next action would be travel administrator to create and submit the related expense report. So we can see that the travel request process has been completed, and now the next step is to create and submit a related expense report. So if we relate that with what we were showing before for the, let me move back to the presentation. So this is the process we were saying before. So step 1, 2, 3 for the travel request, step 4, 5, 6 for the expense report. So for that particular trip, we are now in stage 4, right? We have to initiate the expense report as a travel administrator. So all the travel request part has been completed successfully. All right. So yes, Pablo, go ahead and ask a question. You can use the microphone or post your question in the chat. Can you hear me? Okay. So is it clear how to read the work center? So in here, you will be able to see the travel request, not only the ones you created, but also the ones that were created by other travel administrators. So you will see all the trips for that particular person. Okay, Pablito, all right. Pablito. Okay, so now you should be able to talk.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, actually, I've been raising a question, but I cannot unmute myself. I have a case here since I'm dealing with uniform personnel, and I have contingent here. We are flying them by air. So my question is it possible that we have a template wherein we can just fill it up and we can upload it in the travel request, and automatically it will all the names will appear, like what we are doing with when we raise MOP, group MOP in the FSS, wherein you just fill the template. There's a template there in the FSS, and you fill it up, and then once you fill everything, you just upload the file, then immediately you will see all the names.
Okay, so for uniform personnel, okay, so basically for uniform personnel, if you are traveling then within mission, I mean, we are not talking about deployment or repatriation, right? You're talking about official business travel.
No, I'm talking about deployment and repatriation.
Deployment and repatriation of, okay. Deployment and repatriation, you can create the group travel request, but this uniform personnel, I mean, this is not the topic of today's session, but uniform personnel, are you traveling them, or they're going to be flying with the charter flight?
No, for ONSMEL, we are not flying them by charter flight. We are flying them through commercial flight.
With a commercial flight. Okay.
Yeah,
so that one with a commercial flight. So then you'll need to create a group travel request for them. But that's going to be with the travel administrator for UPs, and you still need to raise one travel request and include in that travel request all the contingent members. Okay, but you can send to me the request by email. I can guide you a little bit more. Okay, because today's session was more for UMBs and non-staff, and not that much for UPs.
Okay. Pablo? Thank you.
All right.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so let's move ahead, and let's see how we can, as a travel administrator for a UMB or any other non-staff, let's see how we can raise a travel request for official travel. So from here, you can see that in the Create Travel Request, by clicking there, we have the two different options: Create Official Travel and Create Entitlement Travel. Right? So in this particular case, this person, it's a UMB. That's why the only options, the only two travel categories allowed for a UMB are official travel and entitlement travel. If the person, for example, was a consultant, instead of entitlement travel, we would see HR to be able to raise the appointment travel for that particular consultant. So in here, in the Create Travel Request, we will see the categories available for that person. And then if we want to raise, instead of a travel request, if we want to raise an expense report, we have the button to raise the expense report. Normally, the expense reports will always be related to an approved travel request. Okay. So we have a question in the chat about the travel request. The attendee is asking if a travel request can be created retroactively after the trip. So travel requests should always be created before, right? So you need to get the travel request approved. Okay. From the system point of view, the system will allow you to create a travel request retroactively, and we are going to see it. So from the system point of view, there is no issue. You can do it, but the normal process would be to raise the travel request before initiating the travel, and in order to also to get the advances paid before initiating the trip. Okay, but from the system point of view, the system will not prevent to raise a travel request with dates in the past. Okay, and we can show it in the demo. So if we click on Create Official Travel, the system will show the first screen from which, as a travel administrator, we can indicate the travel type. Travel type, remember, it's one of the important fields, and it's the one that is deriving the type of funds that will be committed. And you can see it here. So pay special attention to the travel type selected. So the travel type should be the one for that particular trip. So if we are traveling the person, in this case the UMB, outside mission area on training, we should be selecting travel type training, because by doing that, the funds that will be consumed will be the ones related to training. If we are traveling the UNV outside mission area on official business, we should make sure that we select travel type 01. If we are traveling within business, we should be selecting, here it doesn't appear in the training environment, but there is a specific travel type that is number 12 for within mission DFS. So make sure you select the proper one. You have also the ones for medical evacuation, security evacuation, and each travel type, it's linked to a particular type of funds and will record expenses in a particular GL account for finance reporting purposes. Okay, so make sure you select the proper travel type. For you have then the flag for the leave. This is related to the approval of the leave request by the supervisor. So in the case of UNVs, they are not using Umoja, right, for their leave request, but still they need to confirm that the supervisor has agreed with the leave, and they can go on official business or on training. So as travel administrator, you flag that checkbox and you click on general data, and we can click on general data to go to the next screen. Okay, let's wait a little bit more. Okay, so we are now in the general data screen, and from here we can indicate the type of journey. If it's a one-way, round trip, multiple destinations. So normally for official travel, it will be round trip. And we can indicate the date and time for which the UNV has to be available at destination. And here it's related to the question you had before. So here you can put a date in the future that is going to be normally the case. So we can say that the trip would be for, we can even use the calendar. So we can say that the trip would be for next month, okay, from the 23rd until the 27th, even the time, but the system will not restrict the dates, so we can even choose one in the past. And normally, travel request will be always raised for the future. We can indicate the travel purpose. Okay, so view project in a different mission. There is space for comments and special instructions, and afterwards we have the space to indicate the itinerary. In the itinerary, we should be indicating the official one, so the deviation shouldn't be included in the itinerary. And then if there are connection points or stopovers, these connection points should only be included if there is an overnight or a change in the mode of transportation. Right? So if there is a change in the mode of transportation in that connection point, we should include that one. But if there is no overnight and there is no change in mode of transportation, there is no need to include the stopovers. So let's say that the UNV will initiate their travel on the 22nd, and in order to indicate city and country, you can start typing. So you can type the beginning of the city and the system will display all the cities that are matching with that description, and we can choose. Okay, so for example, let's say it's going to be traveling from Juba with a UN aircraft. So here we have the different mode of travel, and he's gonna go. He's gonna arrive also on the 22nd of July. And he will arrive to, let's say, to Entebbe. Okay, so I can type, and the system displays the city. The applicable subsistence, you will need to indicate if the person is entitled for DSA or not. And if you select yes, you will need to specify the region, right? Because the DSA rates vary depending on the region. So this system in Umoja, we have the different DSA rates, and the system is able to calculate the amount for DSA based on the region you select here. So based on the region and based on the departure and destination and arrival date, the system will be able to see and calculate the entitlement amount for DSA. Let me select Entebbe. So that will be the way in, the leg for the way in leg, and we still need to include the way out. So for the way out, we can create a new itinerary line. I recommend you to click on the copy, because it will ease the inclusion of the second part of the itinerary. So as you can see, the system copied the information from the first leg, and we only need to amend the last part and indicate that the staff member will return on the, we can say, the 27th from the departure city, also using the same mode of travel, and we change the arrival date and the arrival city. We can put again Juba. Okay. We can leave second part no DSA, so the staff member is not entitled for DSA on the way back. And here we have already indicated the itinerary. So this, I mean, for the ones that are brand new as travel administrators, maybe the first time you do it is a little bit more confusing for you, but it will become easier and easier once you indicate different itineraries. Personal deviation is the second part of the travel request that we need to indicate. So if there is personal deviation, remember, you don't need to amend the itinerary. If there is personal deviation, you need to click on yes and indicate in the specific field for personal deviation, you need to indicate the requested itinerary. So in the deviation waiver. So if there is any deviation, you need to indicate here the requested itinerary. If there is no deviation, so we could indicate here, for example, that we want to deviate, and we could go to a different city. If there is no deviation, we click on no, and this deviation waiver will disappear, and we can continue to the additional data. All right. All right. So we are back. System already moved us to the next screen, to the additional data. And in the additional data screen, we can see the deductions. So by entering deductions, we will be able to adjust the amount of DSA paid for the staff member. We are going to click on, okay? We have also the option to request travel advance for the UNV in this case. So we can select no, or if we select yes, we can specify how the advance is going to be paid. So you can see that the system, based on the estimated cost, the system will indicate the percentage. So normally it's 75% the maximum amount for a UNV to be paid as an advance. And you can decide to pay the advance in the bank account, or by selecting other, you can indicate or ask the TSA to pay the advance in cash. You can specify cash as pretext or with a check. You can write, if you select other as payment mode, you can ask the TSA to select any other payment mode like a check or cash. If you select EFT, bank transfer, this bank account that is already in the HR profile of the person will appear here. So this bank account, it's already in the HR profile of the person. That's why it appears here, and you as a travel administrator, you can select it. Okay, so I'm gonna select the bank account. Then this is one of the fields we were saying before. It's important, and you should be paying attention to. So this travel processing office, it's the TPO office that will be in charge of approving the travel request, and if there are any ticket involved, they will be the ones responsible for purchasing the tickets. So in this case, as the itinerary was only non-commercial, it went automatically to the non-commercial AMMIS TPO office. If we go back and we change the mode of travel to something that is commercial, then the TPO office will have to be the commercial one. So let's say that the staff member, instead of going to Entebbe, it's going to Nairobi. Okay, so we should be including a new itinerary line to move from Entebbe to Nairobi, right? And from Entebbe to Nairobi, it could be a commercial flight, right? So we could include here the Nairobi. Okay, so it's going from Juba to Entebbe and from Entebbe to Nairobi. And the same thing in the way back. Okay, from on the 27th from Nairobi to Entebbe. Okay. So we could have changed, right, the itinerary, and we are changing the mode of travel. That's why in this case, as we are changing the mode of transportation, we are including the stopovers, because in this example now we are changing the mode of transportation, and we should be including the different stopovers. So now that we have added a commercial aircraft for this example, we should be now seeing that the TPO office, instead of the non-commercial, now it should be the commercial one. Okay, so the TPO office is no longer the non-commercial, and as a travel administrator, you need to make sure that the travel office is the one that should be purchasing the tickets. So in this case, we could even change and indicate UNVNS travel office, so we can search for the different travel offices, and we can select, for example, UNVNS as travel processing office. So as a travel administrator, you can decide which is going to be the travel processing office that will be purchasing your tickets or that will be reviewing your travel request. Okay, you can see that you can amend the travel processing office. Same thing for the cost assignment. So the cost assignment is very important. You need to check that the cost center, this is what we were saying before. So you need to make sure that the cost center appearing here is the one that will be paying for that trip. And if that's not the one that should be paying for the trip, you should be changing and indicate the appropriate cost center, the appropriate fund, all right. You can click on check. So the proper budget period will be appearing, the functional area, fund center, and then when you click on accept and save as draft, the account assignment in this particular case has been changed from the default one to the one that will be paying for that particular trip. So did you get it? This is important. You should always be checking. So when you raise a travel request, one of the things you should be asking the traveler is the account assignment or the cost assignment that will be paying for that trip. And once you know who's paying, you should be clicking on change cost assignment, and you should make sure that the cost center and the fund and the budget period are the ones and are correct. So you should only raise travel request that you know which is the fund, which is the cost center that should be charged for that travel. If you don't know, ask the traveler. The traveler should know who's going to be paying for their trip. Maybe they are traveling because of a project, maybe because of a training. So you should ask the traveler, or otherwise talk to your to the one or to the to the supervisor that is sending that person on travel, and they should be providing you the details for the cost assignment. So cost assignment is very important, and it will drive the list of certifying officers that will be able to approve that travel request. The estimated cost. You can see that there is already an amount for the estimated cost. This amount is for the DSA, and if we click on the enter estimated cost, we can see that in reality is for the enter estimated cost. You can see that it's 950, and that amount is based on the trip dates you specified in the itinerary, and also based on the subsistence region. So we selected subsistence region. In this case, in the end, it was Nairobi. So let me confirm. So 950 is the amount for DSA. So let's see which is the subsistence region that we selected. So you can see that it's not correct, right? Because in the end, the staff member is staying in Nairobi. So the subsistence region, instead of Entebbe, should be Nairobi, right? So when we click on subsistence region, we should be changing that one from Entebbe to Nairobi. Subsistence region should be Nairobi. And by changing the region, I suppose that now the amount for DSA is now going to change. So if we click on proceed to additional data, we will see if the amount, the $950, remain the same or will change. You can see that now the DSA that the traveler should get is much higher, right? So the DSA rate for Nairobi is much higher than for Entebbe. So this is all based on the standard rates coming from the ICSC, and deductions can be included here. So if there are particular deductions, so for example, if the accommodation is provided at destination, you can apply the 50% deduction, and you can apply it, and by clicking on the deductions, the DSA will be reduced. Okay, so now we have applied 50% deduction. In the enter estimated cost, you can also include, for example, the terminal expenses. So by clicking on calculate, you can indicate how many trips from the airport and to the airport are entitled. So let's say that there are 4 trips, 2 in Juba and 2 in Nairobi. By clicking on 4, it will automatically multiply by 47 the standard rate for the per leg, and the system will calculate the amount for terminal expenses. You should be indicating the estimated cost for the airfare ticket. The cost, in our example, the ticket from Entebbe to Nairobi. So it's a round trip ticket. Let's say it will cost for the round trip 500. All right, so you should be indicating the estimated cost for the ticket, and you can see here the total, and we can click on accept. So this will be the estimated cost comprising ticket, DSA plus terminal expenses, and the advances will be 75% off, but only for the part of the DSA plus the terminal expenses. So we are almost done. Tickets. The tickets in this case, there is a travel agency in both, so we should be selecting travel agency. And then we have to answer the mandatory questions for the downgrade, higher standard of accommodation, conjunction of travel. So we will select no to the mandatory questions, and then we are almost ready to send the request for approval. Okay, so these were all the fields mandatory for the official travel. So once we have reviewed everything, we can save and send the request for approval. Okay, so we are ready and we can send it for approval. Okay, let me click on save and send. Are you still there? I don't see any questions in the chat or comments. Can you still hear me? Okay, thank you, Loja. Thank you, Anna. All right. All right, so I'm trying to submit this travel request for approval. So we have some questions about the attachments. Okay, I'm going to show to you where you can include attachments as a travel administrator. Let's see if because in the training environment is not that fast, the submission, so it's still taking a long time. Okay, so all right. So it finished the submission. Let me show to you how to attach a document. Okay, so in that we are going back to the travel administrator. So we did one travel request for Karen. So what we did, we submitted an official travel request. Let me do the attachment in the expense report. Okay. Yeah, good question, Aminata, about the within mission travel for UNVs. Okay, so in the demo, it wasn't showing the within mission, but in production, it's there. Okay, so if you are raising a travel request for a UNV as a travel administrator, you should be selecting within mission travel. So in production is there. It's only because this is training environment and that part is not properly updated. But in production, you should be able. Okay. You said it's not, Aminata. So if you cannot see it, could you send me a screenshot? Because I just checked with the Umoja team, and they were saying that it should be able. So Aminata, please, if you cannot see it, send me a screenshot. You should have my email, and send me a screenshot of the travel types that you see. Okay, Aminata? Thank you. So let me create expense report, because I also want to explain you a couple of things about the expense report. So in the expense report, so once we click on the expense report, we reach this screen. So in this screen, you will see that this part here are the trips that are fully approved and with a trip end date in the past. So as a travel administrator, or even as a traveler, you can only raise an expense report for travel requests that are fully approved with a trip end date in the past. So if you are trying to raise an expense report for a trip that does not appear here, please go back to the work center and check what is the status of that trip. Do not raise a standalone expense report. So always, if there is a travel request, you should always be linking the expense report to that travel request. Okay? So if that's the case, if you find your travel request here and you want to raise the expense report, you just select the trip number and click on Start. And that will, for example, we are now raising the expense report for travel request 299407. Okay, we are having an issue with the, okay. So this is something that only happens in the training environment because of the posting run. Okay, I'm trying to see if we have some of them that are ready. No. All right. Okay. Let me go back. Related to create a expense report. But make sure that when you try to create a expense report, you always link it to a travel request, unless it's a standalone expense report. So standalone expense report should only be used for very specific cases. So this standalone spend report, these ones here. Okay, are you familiar with the standalone spend report concept? So this one here, the standalone spend report, should only be used in exceptional cases. Okay, cases where there is no travel request. So if the trip is urgent and it's for 3 days or less, there is no advance and no commercial ticket is required. In those cases, you can use the standalone spend report. So there is no need to submit a travel request, and you can, in these urgent situations, you can just submit a standalone spend report after the traveler has come back. Okay. But the normal case would be always to create a travel request before departing, and then submit the related expense report. So if you select standalone spend report for official business travel, the system will indicate you that this is a standalone spend report and that should only be used in exceptional cases, and the information you will find is very similar to the one we showed to you before for the trip request, for the travel request, sorry. So in here, let me, okay, let me go down. So you will be able to indicate the different details for the trip number, like for a travel request. Okay. All right. So I wanted to show to you the expense report part. Sorry, the attachment in a travel request. Okay. So let me erase another travel request. Sorry for taking a little bit more time. We are already 5 minutes. Okay. Create official travel. And from there, we can select the travel type again, official business. Right. And then we can click on general. And the attachment option should be there. It's a little bit hidden, but it should be there. Attachments. You can see here the attachments. Okay, but it's telling you that before you can create an attachment, you should be saving the travel request. So you can attach a document here, but before attaching any document, you should be saving the travel request. But in order to save the travel request, you need to have some of the details that are mandatory. So you cannot attach until you have completed some of the details. All right, and from there, you can do the attachments by using this button. Okay, so if you need help, because I don't know, I don't remember who asked about it. I think none. If you need more details, if you cannot do it by yourself, just send me an email and I'll guide you, because I think there is even a job aid explaining that part. Okay, Ariel, what amount you're asking about? The amount of money that can be claimed using standalone spend reports. So there is no limit in the maximum amount. The only limits are the dates, right? So the standalone spend report should only be used for trips that last 3 days or less, right? No, there is no maximum in the amount of money, but there is a maximum in the number of days that can be used in the spend report part, in the standalone spend report. Okay. All right. So if you can, I want to talk a little bit about the rest and recuperation, about the R&R, mainly for UNVs. So for R&R, there are different types of R&R. So we have the option of R&R with free UN transportation, R&R with lump sum option, and R&R with ticket option. So as a travel administrator, if let me go back to the portal, if you try to raise an R&R travel request, the system will ask you to indicate which of these options you want. So if maybe you are in a mission that provides free transportation to the R&R destination, maybe you are in a mission that applies lump sum calculation, or you want or you always want to purchase a ticket for the traveler going on R&R. So when you are creating an R&R travel request on behalf of the UNV, let me do it. So I'm going to select Karen again as a traveler, and when you do the R&R travel request, so let me click on select, and now I'm going to select, instead of official travel, I'm going to select entitlement travel. So when I select entitlement travel, the system will ask me to indicate the type of entitlement travel. Only R&R is allowed for UNVs, and you will see here that you have the three different options: free UN transportation, ticket, or lump sum. So based on your selection here, the roles involved in the R&R process will be different. And here in this slide, so if you click on this in these links, you will see the roles that are involved. So for example, for free UN transportation, this one. So this is the description of the roles involved for R&R travel when there is free transportation. And only in the travel request, only the HR partner is involved. You can see it, right? So the travel administrator will raise the R&R travel request, HR partner will approve, and that's it. And then the spend report, as always, travel administrator, TSA, travel claim processor. On the other hand, if you select here UN purchase ticket, meaning that you are asking the TPO to purchase the ticket for the R&R, then the roles involved will change. So not only the HR partner will review the entitlement, but also the certifying officer, the TSA, will have to certify the travel request, and then the TPO will have to purchase the tickets. Okay, and then the spend report part remains the same. And then if you select the third option, the request for lump sum calculation, this is the one that is a little bit more complex, and it will always go as in any other R&R travel. Your request will always go to the HR partner, and then TPO will receive the request, and they will have to calculate the lump sum amount. So they will have to calculate which is the amount that will be paid as lump sum, right? So once the TPO has indicated the lump sum request, you will receive back in your work center the lump sum calculation, and you have the option. So once you see the lump sum, you have the option to decide if you want the lump sum to be paid for the UNV, or you prefer to go and choose ticket. So as a travel administrator, if you choose this lump sum request for lump sum calculation. Once you get the lump sum calculation from the TPO office, you have the option to select ticket or lump sum. If you select lump sum, TSA will certify the request and the lump sum will be paid automatically to the UNV. If you select option, the ticket option, the TSA will need to, you will need to update the estimated cost for the ticket. TSA will approve it, and TPO will purchase the tickets. And everything is based on the selection you do here when you initiate the travel request for the R&R. So this selection here is very important, because depending if you select lump sum, ticket, or free UN transportation, the roles involved in the process will be different. So this selection is very important. It will have an impact in the roles and steps required. All right. Okay. So sorry about taking 15 minutes more of your time. I think we can close the session now. We didn't cover all the different screens, but at least we reviewed a little bit the process for UNVs and other non-staff. Okay, and thanks for your time. And if you have any particular question or comment, you can always send an email to me, or even you can contact your local process expert in the mission. I'll be sending the presentation after these sessions so that you have it and you can reply back to me for further questions or comments. Okay? So thank you very much for your time, and we'll keep in touch.